Over to you, Deputy Secretary.
The House will be aware that there are serious challenges facing the planning and provision of home care supports and services. The deficits have a serious impact on the quality of choices people make, if indeed they are able to make any choice about how they receive the care they need. The people who need this care are among the most vulnerable in society, and it's the moral responsibility of the state to look after its most vulnerable citizens in their time of need. We know that deficits and challenges facing the Irish health system are complex, but from my direct work with older people and their families in Sligo, Leitrim, South Donegal and North Roscommon, older people are not receiving the quality home care support services that they need to maintain their health well-being and allow them to continue to live independently within their homes and communities, and to avoid or even delay hospital residential care stays. Home supports are critical for older people. It is clear that families are not getting adequate quality, affordable home care supports. The Citizens' Assembly has dealt with this issue and the findings were clear. Some 99% of members wanted the government to expedite the current commitment to place home care on a statutory footing. Life expectancy is rising and people aged over 65 can now expect to live into their 80s, with 2/3 of these years being lived disability-free. People aged over 85 years projected to double in the next 20 years by 2030. People over 65 will increase by 59%. This creates capacity challenges and has been well signalled. The ERSI report on healthcare projections noted that the demand for home care packages will increase by between 44% and 66% by 2030, and the demand for home help hours will increase between 38% and 54%. The Health Service Capacity Review also flags this. Older people can sustain an independent lifestyle at home if they can receive appropriate, timely, quality physical and psychological supports. The absence of available supports impacts fundamentally on the range of choices available to older people. Without access to home care support, some older people are forced to move to residential care setting, which is often not their first choice. This undermines their human right to live with dignity and independence. We know we need a large injection of funding into home supports to enable the service to at least meet its yearly growth in service users. The HSE National Service Plan 2019 provides for a target of almost 17.9 million home support hours to be provided to 53,000 people. Despite the significant level of service provision, demand continues and the waiting list will still persist and rise. There were 519 elderly people on waiting lists for home care at the end of March in the Community Health Area 1. The average time spent on waiting lists for home care supports for non-priority cases is at least 3.3 months. The average home care package is now 6 hours a week and not, as we all thought previously, 10 hours. There are now fewer hours being spread more thinly per client every week, with an increase in the provision of short 30-minute slots. There is not much one can achieve in 30 minutes. There is an absence of legislative entitlement to home supports and there is a lack of transparency and accountability. There is limited access to packages due to the chronic underfunding and the eligibility criteria for supports remain unclear. Overall lack of provision of supports is the key issue. My offices are contacted by families and people needing to remain in hospital or who need to go to a nursing home because there are no supports at home to where they want to return. This is a serious deficit. I have one such case where a man has been between hospital for over a year. His home, which was not appropriate for him, has since been converted to a downstairs ensuite bedroom, which the HSE provided, a hospital bed and a wheelchair for. The man cannot be sent home as there are no care hours in the area. It is far more expensive to keep him in a nursing home or in hospital rather than provide a few hours to this particular family so this 93-year-old man could come home.
Minister.
Thank you.
I want to thank Deputy Eamon Scanlon for raising this very important issue, and I'm taking this matter on behalf of my colleague Jim Daly, Minister of State for Mental Health and Older People. The Government's core objective is to promote care in the community so that people continue to live with confidence, security and dignity in their own homes and communities for as long as possible. A wide range of services are providing, including home supports, day and care residential care, through direct service provision and through voluntary and private providers. Improving access to home support is a priority for the Government. Over the past 4 years, we've seen a considerable increase of nearly 140 million in the budget, which has grown from 306 million in 2015 to almost 446 million in 2019. Over 53,000 people will receive more than 18 million home support hours this year, including intensive home care packages to 235 people. Despite this significant level of service provision, the demand for home support continues to grow. The allocation of funding for home support across the system through significant is finite, and services must be delivered within the funding available. Preliminary data indicates that during the first quarter of the year, 4.2 million hours were delivered nationally, 4,411 new clients commenced the service, and 6,238 people have been assessed and are waiting for new or additional home support services. I acknowledge that in some cases, access to the service may take longer than we would like. However, the HSE has assured the Department that people who are on a waiting list are reviewed as funding becomes available, to ensure that individual cases continue to be dealt with on a priority basis within the available resources, and as determined by the local frontline staff who know and understand the client's needs and who undertake regular reviews of those care needs to ensure that the services being provided remain appropriate. The allocated home support budget for community healthcare organisation Area 1, which covers Cavan, Donegal, Leitrim, Monaghan and Sligo in 2019 is 44.3 million. This is an increase of approximately 4.5 million on last year's allocated budget. While the overall aim is to be as responsive as possible to all applications, delays can occur. According to the HSE, the home support budget for Sligo and Leitrim and West Cavan region experienced demand in excess of the funding available at present. Preliminary data shows that there are 205 people waiting for new or additional hours. In this context, those clients who are assessed and who are not being provided immediately with the service are prioritised based on the clinical assessment and are placed on a waiting list for a resource as it becomes available. The number of people waiting for funding for home support service reflects a point time. While the existing home support service is delivering crucial support to many people across the country, it is acknowledged that the service and access to service needs to be improved to better meet the changing needs of our citizens. Finally, Cancora, this is why we intend to establish a statutory scheme for home support services which will improve access to the service on an affordable and sustainable basis, while also introducing a system of regulation that will ensure public confidence. Thank you, Cancora.
Commitment in the programme for government to introduce uniform home care service so all recipients can receive a quality support 7 days a week. The government increases funding. You're right, the funding has been increased every year, but yet it's not sufficient to meet the demand that's there. I know myself, and you speak of 205 people waiting. Those 205 people are 205 families, actually, that are waiting to get some help and support so that they can bring their loved one home where they want to keep them and where they want to be themselves, and where they can be looked after. And we all know the cost of nursing home care today. It's 1,000 to 1,200 euros a week. 100 euros a week will keep a person in their home with the support of the families and the help of the families. So I think it's economic madness, quite honestly, not to provide the funding. And I agree, the funding has been increased, but not sufficiently enough to look after these people. And I would ask you, small money, when you compare what we're talking about, the Children's Hospital, which I agree has to be built, quite honestly, badly needed. But when you consider a over under 450 or 500 million on that, 5 million, I believe, nationally would solve the problem where people would have enough home help, home care to look after their loved ones at home. And I think the government owes it to those people who have worked all their lives, paid their taxes, reared their families, and now they've been left without any support or any help. I think it's very, very wrong, Minister, and it's 3.5. Some people wait for 3.5 months. I think it's disgraceful, quite honestly, and I think the government should. We're not talking about millions, billions here. We're talking about small money. 4 or 5 million would sort this problem out for the people. Thank you.
Again, I want to thank Deputy Eamon Scanlon. Of course, I take your point on the economic side of the argument, because it has There are strong indicators there that is the sensible thing to do. But we also have the situation where people are now living longer than ever before in the history of the state. Success in improved health and extended life expectancy has been achieved in recent decades, and every year there is an increase of 20,000 in the over 65 population. There is an obvious need to provide high quality and flexible services that not only best meet the needs of the individual clients, but also reduces pressures elsewhere on the health system, and that's another argument. Social care services, including home care, daycare and respite, are an important component in enabling people to remain living at home and participate in their own communities, and they also supply a very valuable support to carers. So the bottom line is here that we are aiming to improve home support service so that people can remain living with confidence, dignity and security in their own homes. While the existing service is delivering crucial support across the country, I do recognise that home support services needs to be augmented to better meet the changing needs of our citizens. The Department is currently engaging in a detailed process to develop a new standalone statutory scheme for the financing and regulation of the home support services. And I presume this is a strong point that you were saying. This scheme is a key action under the Sláinte Care implementation strategy, along with improving and developing supports in the community. And of course I will raise the valuable points you raised and bring them back to Minister Jim Daly.